Good morning. Hello friends. How are you all? I'm Nupur. Welcome everybody to my YouTube channel Nature at the very core of science. I'm continuing reading the story Old Yeller. We have reached now chapter 9. In our last chapter, we have seen that a stranger came to claim Old Yeller, and he also mentioned about the hydrophobia which is outbroken in that part of Salt Licks. So Bernd Sanderson warned Travis to be careful and look after all his dogs and cattle to see whether any one of those is showing the symptoms of hydrophobia. So we will continue and see what happens next. A boy, before he really grows up, is pretty much like a wild animal. He can get the wits scared clear out of him today and by tomorrow have forgotten all about it. At least that's the way it was with me. I was plenty scared of the hydrophobia plague that Bernd Sanderson told me about. I could hardly sleep that night. I kept picturing in my mind mad dogs and mad wolves reeling about with the blind staggers, drooling slobbers, and snapping and biting at everything in sight. Maybe biting Mama and little Earlies so that they got the sickness and went mad too. I lay in bed and shuddered and shivered and dreamed all sorts of nightmare happenings. Then, the next day, I went to rounding up and marking hogs and forgot all about the plague. Our hogs ran loose on the range in those days, the same as our cattle. We fenced them out of the fields, but never into a pasture. We had no pastures. We never fed them unless maybe it was a little corn that we threw to them during a bad spell in the winter. The rest of the time, they rustled for themselves. They slept out and ate out. In the summertime, they slept in the cool places around the water holes, sometimes in the water. In the winter, they could always tell at least a day ahead of time when a blizzard was on the way. Then they would gang up and pack tons of leaves and dry grass and sticks into some dense thicket or cave. They would pile all these into a huge bed and sleep on until the cold spell blew over. They ranged all over the hills and down into the canyons. In season, they fed on acorns, berries, wild plums, prickly pear, apples, grass, weeds, and bulb plants which they rooted out of the ground. They especially liked the wild black persimmons that the Mexicans called chapatos. Sometimes, too, they would eat a newborn calf if the mama cow could not keep them horned away, or a baby fawn that the doe had left hidden in the tall grass. Once in a real dry time, Papa and I saw an old sow standing belly deep in a drying up pothole of water, catching and eating perch that were trapped in there and couldn't get away. Most of these meat eaters were old hogs, however. Starvation during some bad drought or extra cold winter had forced them to eat anything they could get hold of. Papa said they generally started out by feeding on the carcass of some deer or cow that had died, then going from there to catching and killing live meat. He told a tale about how one old range hog had caught him when he was a baby and his folks got there just barely in time to save him. It was that sort of thing, I guess, that always made Mama so afraid of wild hogs. The least little old biting shot could make her take cover. She didn't like it a bit when I started out to catch and mark all the pigs that our sows had raised that year. She knew we had it to do, else we could not tell our hogs from those of the neighbors. But she didn't like the idea of my doing it alone. But I am not working hogs alone, Mama, I pointed out. I have got Old Yeller, and Bernd Sanderson says he's a real good hog dog. That doesn't mean a thing, Mama said. All hog dogs are good ones. A good one is the only kind that can work hogs and live. But the best dog in the world won't keep you from getting cut all to pieces if you ever make a slip. Well, Mama was right. I would work with Papa enough to know that any time you messed with a wild hog, you were asking for trouble. Let him alone, and he will generally snort and run from you on sight, the same as a deer. But once you corner him, He is the most dangerous animal that ever lived in Texas. Catch a squealing pig out of the bunch and you have gotten a battle on your hands. All of them will turn on you at one time, and here they will come roaring and popping their teeth, cutting high and fast with gleaming white tushes that they keep whetted to the sharpness of knife points. And there is no bluff to them either. They mean business. They will kill you if they can get to you. And if you are not fast-footed and don't keep a close watch, they will get to you. They had to be that way to live in a country where the wolves, bobcats, panther, and bear were always after them, trying for a bait of fresh hog meat. And it was because of this that nearly all hog owners usually left 4 or 5 old barrows, or bar hogs as we call them, to run with each bunch of sows. The bar hogs were not any more vicious than the boars, but they would hang with the sows and help them protect the pigs and shoats when generally the boars pulled off to range alone. I knew all this about range hogs and plenty more, yet I still wasn't bothered about the job facing me. In fact, I sort of looked forward to it. Working wild hogs was always exciting and generally proved to be a lot of fun. I guess the main reason I felt this way was because Papa and I had figured out a quick and nearly foolproof way of doing it. We could catch most of the pigs we needed to mark and castrate without ever getting in reach of the old hogs. It took a good hog dog to pull off the trick. But the way Barnes Sanderson talked about Old Yeller, I was willing to bet that he was that kind of good. He was, too. He caught on right away. We located our first bunch of hogs at a steep spring at the head of a shallow dry wash that led back toward Birdsong Creek. There were 7 sows, 2 long-tushed old bar hogs, and 14 small shoats. They would come there to drink and to wallow around in the potholes of soft, cool mud. They caught wind of us about the same time I saw them. The old hogs threw up their snouts and said, "Whoop!" Then they all tore out for the hills, running through the rocks and brush almost as swiftly and silently as deer. "Head them, Yeller," I hollered. "Go get them, boy." But it was a waste of words. Old Yeller was done gone. He streaked down the slant, crossed the draw, and had the tail-end pig caught by the hind leg before the others knew he was after them. The pig set up a loud squeal. Instantly, all the old hogs wheeled. They came at Old Yeller with their bristles up, roaring and popping their teeth. Yeller held on to his pig until I thought for a second they had him. Then he let go and whirled away, running toward me, but running slow. Slow enough that the old hogs kept chasing him, thinking every second that they were going to catch him the next. When they finally saw that they couldn't, the old hogs stopped and formed a tight circle. They faced outward around the ring, their rumps to the center, where all the squealing pigs were gathered. That way, they were ready to battle anything that wanted to jump on them. That's the way they were used to fighting bear and panther off from their young, and that's the way they aim to fight us off. But we were too smart, Old Yeller and I. We knew better than to try to break into the tight ring of threatening tushes. Anyhow, we didn't need to. All we needed was just to move the hogs along to where we wanted them, and Old Yeller already knew how to do this. Back he went, right up into their faces, where he pestered them with yelling bays and false rushes till they couldn't stand it. With an angry roar, one of the barrows broke the ring to charge him. Instantly, all the others charged too. They were right on Old Yeller again. They were just about to get him. Just let them get a few inches closer, and one of them would slam a 4-inch tush into his soft belly. The thing was, Old Yeller never would let them gain that last few inches on him. They cut and slashed at him from behind and both sides, yet he never was quite there. Always he was just a little bit beyond their reach, yet still so close that they couldn't help thinking that the next try was sure to get him. It was a blood-chilling game Old Yeller played with the hogs, but one that you could see he enjoyed by the way he went at it. Give him time, and he would take that bunch of angry hogs clear down out of the hills and into the pens at home if that's where I wanted them. Never driving them, just leading them along. But that's where Papa and I had other hog hunters outfigured. We almost never took our hogs to the pens to work them anymore. That took too much time. Also, after we got them penned, there was still the dangerous job of catching the pigs away from the old ones. I hollered at Old Yeller. "Bring them on, Yeller," I said. Then I turned and headed for a big gnarled live oak tree that stood in a clear patch of ground down the draw a piece. I would picked out that tree because it had a huge branch that stuck out to one side. I went and looked the branch over and saw that it was just right. It was low, yet still far enough above the ground to be out of reach of the highest cutting hog. I climbed up the tree and squatted on the branch. I unwound my rope from where I would packed it coiled around my waist and shook out a loop. Then I hollered for Old Yeller to bring the hogs to me. He did what I told him. He brought the fighting hogs to the tree and rallied them in a ring around it. Then he stood back, holding them there while he cocked his head sideways at me, wanting to know what come next. I soon showed him. I waited till one of the pigs came trotting under my limb. I dropped my loop around him, gave it a quick yank, and lifted him, squealing and kicking up out of the shuffling and roaring mass of hogs below. I clamped him between my knees, pulled out my knife, and went to work on him. First I folded his right ear and sliced out a 3-cornered gap in the top side, a mark that we called an overbeat. Then, from the other side of his left ear, I slashed off a long strip that ran clear to the point. This is what we called an underslope. That had made him marked for me. Our mark was overbeat the right and underslope the left. Other settlers had other marks. The right and underbeat the left, or 2 underbeats in the right ear, or an overslope in the left and an overbeat in the right. Everybody knew the hog mark of everybody else, and we all respected them. We never butchered or sold a hog that did not belong to us, or mark a pig following a sow that didn't wear our mark. Cutting marks is a pig's ear is bloody work, and the scared pig kicks and squeals like he's dying, but he's not really hurt. What hurts him is the castration, and I never did like that part of the job, but it had to be done, and still does if you want to eat hog meat. Let a boar hog get grown without cutting his seeds out, and his meat is too tough and rank smelling to eat. The squealing of the pig and the scent of his blood made the hogs beneath me go nearly wild with anger. You never heard such roaring and teeth popping as they kept circling the tree and rearing up on its trunk trying to get to me. The noise they made and the hate and anger that showed in their eyes was enough to chill your blood. Only I was used to the feeling and did not let it bother me. That is not much. Sometimes I would let my mind sleep for a minute and get to thinking how they would slash me to pieces if I happened to fall out of the tree, and I would feel a sort of cold shudder run all through me. But Papa had told me right from the start that fear was a right and natural feeling for anybody and nothing to be ashamed of. It's a thing of your mind, he said, and you can train your mind to handle it just like you can train your arm to throw a rock. Put that way, it made sense to be afraid, so I had not bothered about that. I would put in all my time trying to train my mind not to let fear stampede me. Sometimes it did yet, of course, but not when I was working hogs. I would had enough experience at working hogs that now I could generally look down and laugh at them. I finished with the first pig and dropped it to the ground. Then one after another, I roped the others, dragged them up into the tree and worked them over. A couple of times the old hogs on the ground got so mad that they broke ranks and charged Old Yeller. But right from the start, Old Yeller had caught on to what I wanted. Every time they chased him from the tree, he would just run off a little way and circle back, then stand off far enough away that they would rally around my tree again. In less than an hour, I was done with the job, and the only trouble we had was getting the hogs to leave the tree after I was finished. After going to so much trouble to hold the hogs under the tree, Old Yeller had a hard time understanding that I finally wanted them out of the way. And even after I got him to leave, The hogs were so mad and so suspicious that I had to squat there in the tree for nearly an hour longer before they finally drifted away into the brush, making it safe for me to calm down.